All right. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. So I'm Tristan, and just a little introduction about who I am and why I'm here. I was a design ethicist at Google. So you might be thinking, like, Google hires design ethicists? Like, what does that mean? I was thinking about how do you ethically steer 2 billion people's attention? So people look at their smartphone the first thing they do when they wake up in the morning, and their minds are programmed by a bunch of ideas, like, I'm late for work, I'm so behind, or I should see these new likes from these friends, and oh my God, my friends' lives are better than me. How do you ethically steer 2 billion people's thoughts? And what I think about with this problem, we've basically are a set of people. The Center for Humane Technology is a nonprofit in San Francisco that has gathered together a lot of ex-technology insiders, people who were on the inside. My friends in college started Instagram. My friend in college invented the Facebook like button. And we have people here today like Guillaume and Renee DiResta from Data for Democracy, people who are on the inside understand how these systems get manipulated. And from that perspective saying, we have to do this differently. And the thing that I most wanted to talk to you about today is how to not play whack-a-mole. Because we have this sort of trillion media items sort of scale game of whack-a-mole going on. And we just saw it with the very first speaker, Maria, right? That there is fake news or toxic information or hate speech at scales that are so unmanageable and so unheard of. It is impossible to deal with this problem with whack-a-mole. Now, it doesn't mean we need to stop doing that, because short term we have elections to save and we've got to do as much as possible. But just to sort of state the numbers, there are 2.2 billion people who use Facebook. That's about the number of followers of Christianity. There's 1.9 billion people who use YouTube. It's probably more now. That's about the number of followers of Islam. And people check their phones. Apple's number is 80 times a day, more than 80 times a day, from the moment you wake up in the morning and you undo your alarm to all the times during the day, the bathroom, coffee line, and then to you set your alarm. So I've got you completely jacked in. So the second you go like this, your thoughts are mine. I've got them. When I was a kid, I was a magician. And magic has a fundamental different reframe on, I think, how we see this problem. What I want to offer you is, instead of playing whack-a-mole, how do we solve the depth of this problem? The depth of this problem, Charles Kettering has this great quote, which is that a problem that is not well understood is impossible to solve. And a problem that is well understood is half solved. So what I want to claim to you is that the deep structural problem here is that we actually don't understand ourselves, we don't understand human nature, that technology is actually built on a fallacy, an 18th century idea of human nature. That Yuval Harari would say, the author of Sapiens, would say, the voter is always right, the customer knows best, trust your heart and feelings. The things that happen inside of your mind, your thoughts, your beliefs, your feelings, are inside of a secure enclave that you are choosing each one of those things, and you're navigating around the world as if you're choosing. And that is not true. And that is the premise of what is behind what all of you already know, which is that we have this mass manipulation of every election, every society, every culture going on here right now, which means we need to build up back a new technology infrastructure that's based on that view of human nature. I brought up magic earlier because magic already shows us that it's possible for someone to know more about your mind than you know about your mind. Like, if you think about it, if someone knows more about knows you better than you know yourself, who's going to win in that transaction? All the time, the person who knows more, right? So let's make that practical. So let's bring this into real life. So when you launch a YouTube video, I'm not trying to pick on YouTube, but there's so many different examples across the board, but you land on a YouTube video, and you think to yourself, I know those other times I end up watching like 2 hours of videos and I get sucked in, but this time, no. This time is going to be so different. In other words, you think you know yourself. And then what happens is you wake up 2 hours later out of a trance, and your phone is in your face, and it's 2 in the morning, and you're like, what just happened? And it's because you had a supercomputer pointed at your brain. When you land at YouTube, your model is, I'm just going to choose to watch whatever videos I'm going to watch. YouTube is just a neutral tool, and it's often talked about in circles like this especially, as technology is just neutral, we have to change how we use it. And what that misses is the element of persuasive technology. That technologies that are built in Silicon Valley are designed to explicitly persuade people to use them in certain ways. And in this case, YouTube is trying to persuade you to watch as many videos as possible. Not because they're bad or they have some ill intention or anybody wants something bad to happen. They just want to, that's their business model. So obviously, what are they going to do that? When Netflix sits there, and Netflix is one of their competitors, and they autoplay the video on a 5-second countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, because they say maybe if we do autoplays, we'll get some more attention. YouTube has to look at that and say, well, that means we have to be even better at recommending the next thing to you. So I know, let's take 2 billion human animals and figure out what's ever gotten them to click, and say if you watch this, if you're a teen girl and you watch this dieting video, let's just calculate what are the best things that tend to keep that teen girl there on the site. And unbeknownst to YouTube, not because anyone at YouTube chose this, but it finds out that anorexia videos work really well at keeping people on YouTube the longest. So it has this tilt that no matter where you start, if YouTube can steer you in 2 directions, one is towards the calm, truthful stuff, and one is towards more radicalizing stuff, you could land any day anywhere on that spectrum. Like, if someone sends you a video, it doesn't matter where you land. If they want to get your attention, they always send you down the road of whatever is more radicalizing, sensationalizing, which means you start at a 9/11 video in English, a news video, and the autoplay is 9/11 conspiracy theories. YouTube recommended 15 billion times Alex Jones thumbnails, not the views, but the thumbnails in 2017, and 2 billion views of Alex Jones videos. So I think the scale of this is really hard for people to comprehend because there are 40,000 members of, say, Scientology. If you think about just the scale of the conspiracy thinking, the paranoia, the stuff that we're tilting the entire social fabric in this direction, it's very hard to imagine what that's really doing to society. And this is not by accident. Again, it's by design. My other background is before starting a technology company that was acquired by Google. I actually was at a lab at Stanford called the Persuasive Technology Lab. And the Persuasive Technology Lab teaches engineering students how do you understand people's attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors, and how do you steer them, ideally for good. So this is not a malicious, manipulative lab. The idea was, could we help persuade people to do things that they would love to do? So go to the gym more often, floss, go do things with their friends. The Instagram founders and I actually came up with an idea we called Send the Sunshine, which is an idea when your friends are depressed. Could an app text you and say, hey, your friend's depressed, text them a photo of some sunshine to cheer them up. So there are good uses of persuasive technology. But from that lab came the alumni of Instagram, came the alumni who joined the early ranks at Facebook. And we are the sort of cohort who understands the industry is not designed to ask, how do we make the strongest democracy possible? It's just a bunch of people who go to work every day and say, how do I keep you engaged? And so what starts with this honest race for attention of let me throw in this follow button, because now when there's a follow button, you'll check every day to see how many new followers you have. That was a good way to get you to come back every day. I invented that. It didn't have to be that way. I invented that. It was good. Look, you're all using Twitter now every day. You're all hooked. I saw you in the audience using it earlier. But then it moves from that to the situation where we now have algorithms that are deciding what 2 billion people watch. So the chief product officer at YouTube said that the average watch time of YouTube now is 60 minutes on mobile. And he said that's specifically because of how good we're getting at the recommendations. We've got supercomputers who know you way better than you know yourself. And we don't want to admit that. And it's also true with Facebook. So when Mark Zuckerberg said in February of 2017 that we have to change our mission statement from make the world more open and connected, and I have this new mission statement that we need to protect the social fabric. So what our new mission is to bring the world closer together. Remember when he said that? And what he'd asked his product managers to do was say, well, what brings the world closer together are Facebook groups, because now people can communicate with each other. But for those of you who study disinformation, you know that Facebook groups are one of the most powerful places to spread disinformation. But more than that, Mark Zuckerberg said, I want you to maximize the number of groups that people join. So again, what did they do? They made it so when you join one group, so let's say you're a new mom, and you want to get new mom advice, and you join this one Facebook group for trading advice with other moms. That's actually a super great and empowering use case. But then Facebook's sitting there saying, I've got this goal from Mark. I have to maximize the number of groups you join. So now I want to recommend what are some other groups that might work for you. And guess what's a really engaging group that keeps you coming back and posting a lot for someone who joined a mom group? Anti-vaccine conspiracy theory groups. Then you join anti-vaccine conspiracy theory groups, you hit join on that, and then what does it recommend to you? Because what are other things that anti-vaccine conspiracy theorists like? Now I've got you in Pizzagate, and chemtrails, and flat Earth. And again, it's tilting the entire social fabric in this direction. They're like digital Frankensteins. They're out of control. If you thought this was bad in English, as has already been said here by such great speakers, how many people at Facebook speak the language of Sri Lanka, or Filipino, or in Burma, the 22 languages of India? If you thought 9/11 conspiracies were bad in English, have you looked at 9/11 conspiracies in the Arabic market? Is there any way to rein in this digital Frankenstein that is pulling on the puppet strings of 2 billion people's human emotions at scale? So, in the face of all that, and how much time do we have? Like 3 minutes? Great. So we're going to solve it in 3 minutes. So, what do I want to say in 3 minutes? The solution to this is not, let's be just less addicted to our phones and turn off notifications and maybe set our phones grayscale. That'd be like looking at climate change and saying, oh, I know, let's ban plastic straws, right? You live in an environment where the social fabric is tilting in a direction, whether you use technology or not. People believing in conspiracy theories affects you and your kids. It affects herd immunity for the anti-vax. It affects people electing populists because of the belief in crazier and crazier things. So we have to have a more systemic solution. And maybe we can talk more about this later. I hope the panel takes all of this on. But basically, what we've found in terms of changing the industry is you have to go after all the constituencies. The good news is no one wants the future that I'm describing to you. No one wants that. No human being, once they are walked through the entire argument we just walked through, actually wants that. No parent wants their kids to feel lonely and see infinite evidence of their friends having fun without them, right? And none of us want our society believing in the most number of conspiracy theories and paranoia and populism as possible. So that's the first thing. And what we found is that the engineers at the companies, the people inside the companies, are our friends and they're our biggest ally, because they have the most immediate and rapid economic leverage on changing what the leadership does. If you look at what happened with Google and Project Maven, the Defense Department, what we've found is that by engineers talking about these issues inside of Facebook, Facebook earlier this year adopted time well spent, which is a phrase that we coined in a whole design framework that we've been working on for 5 years. Mark Zuckerberg posted about it in January 2018 of this year. Apple and Google have both launched digital well-being initiatives that are about to address the issues of maximizing screen time. And these are really good, helpful steps in the first direction, and they're happening because employees are saying, we don't want this. You can also go after advertisers and say the advertisers are funding this to happen, and we don't want that. And you can also go after the public, and the media have a tremendous role in raising awareness that everyone seems to be talking about these issues. So that's hopefully a good introduction. Thank you all for listening.